take you on a roller coaster.
This season has been a roller coaster ride for the New York Knicks. Latrell Sprewell's story, explosive on and off the court. GM Ernie Grunfeld demoted watching the playoffs from home. Coach Jeff Van Gundy's job on the line all season. Then in the conference finals, the injured Patrick Ewing had to kiss the playoffs goodbye. But against all odds, they play on. Allen Houston's buzzer beater in Game 5 ousted Pat Riley's Miami Heat. Larry Johnson lit up the Garden like never before. In Game 5, Larry Bird's Pacers got off to a fast start, and Reggie Miller's shooting was accurate. But it was not enough to halt the individual efforts of Allen Houston. Latrell Sprewell, Marcus Camby, and Larry Johnson. Now these improbable, indomitable Knicks are a victory away from the NBA Finals.
This is the NBA on NBC. The 1999 NBA Playoffs. Tonight, Game 6, the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks.
Madison Square Garden in Midtown Manhattan. And earlier, the madness outside in a city that has gone crazy over the New York Knicks. In contrast, the players alone with their thoughts. What must be in the mind of Latrell Sprewell, a year ago an outcast, now on the verge of leading a new team to glory. And Marcus Camby, unwanted, a lightning rod of criticism, now the player of the series. As the crowd cheers on, can Reggie Miller block it out, then silence the Knicks faithful as he's done so many times, or do doubts creep in? And Mark Jackson, whose emotions must be in conflict, hoping to deny victory to the team he grew up with, for whom he once played. The crowd primed and ready, and inside the Garden, sold out the 295th consecutive time as thoughts and throats come together for Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Garden, which is in full throat tonight. And, of course, the Knicks can close out the series with a victory and move on to the finals to face the San Antonio Spurs. Tom Hammond with Steve Snapper Jones and with Bill Walton. You know, the Knicks got to this point, Steve, by winning in Indianapolis on Wednesday night. Jeff Van Gundy called for better defense and more rebounding. He got the better defense part, but he also got the big three to finally make some buckets.
You know, Tom, he finally had some of his prayers answered. He was able to exhale because offense was what he needed desperately from all three of those players in the same game, and it had been missing. So it was Latrell Sprewell who was the guy that was making plays happen for other players, and down the stretch, it was Larry Johnson again delivering the big threes that was able to get them the big advantage. But to get there, they needed Allen Houston in his mid-range shooting, and of course they needed Sprewell to make some mad dashes to the basket. And when they get this kind of effort from the big three, it's a dominating effort, and it's a win for them. But Jeff Van Gundy told his guards on Game 5 that the eyes of the world were on them. Right. This is Game 6, and he's probably doing the Frank Sinatra song. I did it my way, boys. Get it to me one more time, and let us get to the final.
Or maybe New York, New York might fit, too. And no Grateful Dead reference this time.
If he's going to evoke the spirit of Jerry Garcia, all bets are off.
Well, I was thinking back to that Wednesday game in Indianapolis, and in praise of the Pacers, I said to you, what a difference a day makes. Well, here we are again, and what a difference a day makes.
Tom, the Pacers are staggering after a missed opportunity, sure to plague them for the rest of their lives. Their only redemption now is the illogic of this series, which could only point to a convincing Indiana victory tonight. They won't find any direction from Game 5, though, because Game 5 found them, the Indiana Pacers, playing backwards. After a red-hot start, they fell apart, shooting only 38% the last three quarters. They gave up 36 fourth-quarter points. That's inexcusable. And then fast break points. They were outworked and out-hustled. The bench should be a key for Indiana. They were blasted. One positive sign, though, was Reggie Miller, who finally, at last, came alive. Reggie got lots of shots and got to the foul line. Now, the Pacers, still confident, have only played one good game. But They have never got control of this series, and there's persistent questions whether they even have a player who can control a series at this level. Tonight, we find out who the real players are, because in life, the last step, the final step to success is competitive greatness, about doing your best when your best is needed. We're about to find out just how long the Indiana Pacers stride is.
Put me in, Coach. Let's go.
One time, do something.
Some good news for Indiana. Point guard Travis Best, who's missed the last 2 games with a groin pull, is about 70% and will play tonight. And for more on the Pacers, let's go to Jim Gray.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. I spoke with Larry Bird, and he is very upset with his team. He told me he understands the mistakes, and he can understand and deal with the turnovers, and he can understand and deal with the missed shots and the personal fouls. What he says he cannot understand and what's driving him crazy is the lack of effort and the lack of concentration. He says it's a total disgrace. He went on to tell me if these guys played in any other city, they'd be run out of town. If they played in Boston or New York, they'd be treated like dogs. But that's not the case, he says, because we play in Indiana. And in Indiana, it's okay to lose, and we'll come on back and try it again tomorrow. Well, it's not okay. He told his team, guys, there is no tomorrow. You've got to wake up now. You've got to get it together. He told me, if I don't get the effort that I expect tonight, these guys do not belong in the basketball business. Tom?
All right, Jim, strong words from Larry Bird. Should the Pacers fulfill his expectations, there will be a Game 7 in Indianapolis on Sunday. In a moment, we'll send you to Hannah Storm in our Showtime studio. Pete Vesey has some updated news on NBA coaching changes. And right now, the Knicks are getting closer to their dream.
Smarter, harder, and for 48 minutes, baby. Ain't no way they're going to stop our show. Ain't no way, no, 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 no.
We're standing by for Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks. That's the hot spot in Manhattan tonight, Madison Square Garden. Tom Hammond, Steve Jones, Bill Walton, Jim Gray ready for Game 6. And the Indiana Pacers facing elimination tonight, unless they can hold off the Knicks. Will go with their familiar starting 5. That means up front, Dale Davis had a great rebounding game in Game 5. Rick Smith, only one good game in the series. And New York native Chris Mullin. Into the backcourt, another New Yorker, Mark Jackson. And the dangerous Reggie Miller off a 30-point performance in Game 5. Larry Bird, the Pacers head coach. And the New York Knicks trying to be the first 8th seed in NBA history to make the finals. This is the lineup we've seen the last 2 games. This will be the 3rd in a row for it. Larry Johnson, Chris Dudley replacing the injured Patrick Ewing, and for the 3rd time in the series, Latrell Sprewell starting. Charlie Ward is the point guard. The shooting guard is Allen Houston. And the embattled coach of the New York Knicks has taken them within 1 game of the finals, Jeff Van Gundy. NBA history shows that 10 of 11 times the Game 5 winner with the series tied at 2 has gone on to take the series. The only exception, 1994, the Indiana Pacers won Game 5 on the road, then lost 6-7 to the Knicks.
Tom, for the Indiana Pacers, they got to fight the crowd, the entire state of New York. They've got to control the tempo by denying penetration. That'll give them control of the boards. And then they got to cut down the rotation. Fewer players, longer minutes.
It's only one thing the New York Knicks have to do: play loose and free.
Dick Bavetta, Hugh Hollins, and Mike Mathis, the officials for tonight's Game 6. Indiana controlling the opening tap. Here's Rick Smith. Had 25 at the Garden earlier, has done nothing in any of the other games of the series. Ball on the head fake, misses the shot, and Chris Dudley has the rebound. Charlie Ward surveying the Indiana defense. Dudley comes out at long range. Smith follows him just far enough out to be legal. Here's Larry Johnson. Shooting over Dale Davis, no good, and Davis collars the rebound.
Now this crowd is ready to explode at anything that the Knicks do, but what they have to do is play quick basketball. The longer they take with the ball, the easier it is going to be for the Indiana Pacers to handle it.
Double team Smith, goes right to Ward. Here's the New York break, 3-on-3. Ward, bad pass over the head of Larry Johnson. Are the Knicks a little tight here? Now, Jeff Van Gundy said you want them to play loose, be aggressive, play to win rather than to avoid losing. How do they look early?
That was a clear mistake right there. Charlie Ward was the most tentative player. They had a 3-on-1, should have converted, and he turned it over.
Rick Smith's a little bit tight himself. Illegal defense early. Pacers need to go to the hoop. The game they won here, game 4, they did not take a single three-point shot. You look at Rick Smith's, the first quarter of the last 3 games have just been pathetic. He's got 55 points in the series, 25 of those points in 1 game. Nice pass there, Smith.
Mark Jackson has gotten more rebounds than Smiths as Dale Davis uses his strength to pound that one home, the first basket of the game, and Mark Jackson right in the face of Charlie Ward in backcourt.
If they can get Dale Davis off early, that's always their plan. They got to keep with that and keep milking him.
Now to Houston, bumped by Dale Davis as he comes off a Larry Johnson screen, and that'll be the first foul of the game.
Your Jeff Van Gundy is telling his guys, run it, move the ball, move people a lot quicker. And what the Indiana Pacers are going to try to do is be disruptive. But if you're Dale Davis, you just can't step out there and give him that little pork chop like that.
You've got a bump cutter, Steve. This is the championship right here of the conference. Now, sure, that was a foul leaning in a little bit longer or a little bit too much, but you've got to be able to step out there and deny their cut.
Sprewell had trouble catching the ball. Gives it up to Larry Johnson. Again, he's against the bigger Dale Davis.
Now, this is what they don't want. They don't want the ball to stop, and it does. Tough effort by Johnson. Foul Rick Smith.
When Larry Johnson holds on to the ball, he just brings everything to a grinding halt in the whole universe. He's got this little spin move down here. That guard has got to realize, Reggie Miller and Mark Jackson, they have to come down and anticipate that spin move.
This is a cosmic thing tonight? The whole universe?
I was unaware the world revolved around Larry Johnson, but
it's going to revolve around the guy who steps up tonight. Rick Smith still in foul trouble. With more fouls than rebounds, fewer rebounds than your own point guard. Ouch.
Larry Johnson hits the 2 free throws, and we're tied at 2 with 2 minutes gone by. Jackson has been very effective posting Charlie Ward at times in the series. Gives it up to Miller. As always, guarded by Allen Houston. Done a terrific job on him. Smiths. Rick Smiths, baseline jumper. It looks like Indiana is intent on going to Smiths here early.
Well, they are. They want to get them going, but what they're doing is spacing things further out, which makes them a lot easier to defend.
The mindset for Rick Smith, though, has to be hate the opposition and think about making shots.
Sprewell misses with the left hand. Dudley kept it alive. Sprewell still can't score. Smith hauls it down for Indiana.
Charlie Ward is gambling off of Mark Jackson. They can make him pay.
Sprewell, who has made a reputation as a gambler on defense, comes over the back of Dale Davis for his first foul.
That ball was sitting out there like a big lollipop, and he had all the temptation in the world. He went for it, went right through Dale Davis in a mismatch, got caught.
Beautiful set play here.
And Smiths converts on the jump hook after the good pass from Reggie Miller. Smiths with 4, and Indiana has a 6-2 lead.
Getting Rick Smith off early really helped Dale Davis get to the offensive glass and get into a rhythm of his own.
The defense of Indiana is much better here at the start of the ball game than it's been in any other, and they've had the Knicks working against the clock. Larry Johnson at 4.
Back rim. Davis gives it up to Jackson.
Larry Johnson's dribbling too much. They need penetration and dish. That was the key to their perfect finish in game 5, the Knicks.
Jackson to Smith. Missed that one. And Charlie Ward is going to be called for a rebounding foul as Patrick Ewing sees his opposite number, Rick Smiths, get off the mark early.
Well, there's one thing that Patrick Ewing knows is his guy Charlie Ward cannot get away with anything. Pinning Mark Jackson underneath the hoop, had him locked up. The foul goes against him. Indiana gets a new 24.
Come right back to Smiths. Dump it down. Punish him and control tempo.
Smiths has hit 2 of his first 3 shots. Miller misses a 3. Here comes Ward for New York. Indiana's back on defense, though. Fast break points have been heavily in favor of the Knicks throughout the series.
Why does Charlie Ward dribble to the sideline on a delayed break?
It was a very nervous first 4 minutes for the New York Knicks, and Charlie Ward turns it over.
Reggie Miller with a run out. Charlie Ward turnover, converted to a Pacer basket, and Indiana's up 6. The New York Knicks 0 for 4 and 2 turnovers to start the game. Timeout, New York.
Charlie Ward in the middle, and you can tell that he's tentative and he's nervous, and that results in something Reggie Miller rarely does: 2 hands over the top.
He can dunk, I guess.
Indiana with the early lead on New York. Reggie Miller getting a slam off Charlie Ward turnover. When these teams met in the '94 playoffs, the series was tied at 2 games when Reggie Miller scored 25 fourth-quarter points to lead Indiana to a Game 5 victory here in New York. But the Knicks won Game 6 at Indiana, then Game 7 back at the Garden to advance to the NBA Finals against Houston.
Tom, he wasn't calling out Latrell Sprewell there, was he?
Cruel, Bill.
Well, it must have been Spike Lee he was coming after that day.
Now, Reggie has had some tremendous ball games here. That layup and that cheap one might get him started. Houston had some pretty good defense going against them prior to that effort.
Charlie Ward with a pass, Sprewell to finish. New York's first field goal.
If you're Chris Mullin, you can never get backdoor. You got to keep a hand on the hip, make him receive, stepping away. You're giving up too much athletically anyway.
Jackson for 3. Mark Jackson nails a 3. Good ball movement. Mullin the pass. Jackson's first bucket. The Indiana lead is 7.
You know what I've noticed about these Knicks? They don't like to play unless they're behind. So they got to dig themselves in a hole here, let the Pacers get going, and then try to figure out a way to rally.
But the crowd is so ready. But they have to sit down because the Knicks are doing nothing.
Ward with a dish, but no finish. He got it back, Charlie Ward did. Here's Sprewell.
Sprewell's not a three-point shooter. His perimeter jumper's not really going down. The Knicks need him to get to the hoop, and consequently the free throw line.
Before Game 5, both Sprewell and Houston were shooting in the low 30% range from the floor. They both shot above 40 in Game 5. Here's a traveling call by Rick Smits.
Well, let's remember this about Latrell Sprewell. He's streaky. You don't know what shot, you don't know what move is going to get him going. It could be a 3-point shot, it could be the worst shot he takes of the evening, and suddenly he explodes. So you can't exactly categorize what Sprewell is or what he's going to do.
But the Knicks are walking, Steve. That's not their game.
Johnson for 3. Mullin has the ball and gives it up to Mark Jackson.
Both teams have forgotten what got them victories in control of the game. Ball movement, player movement, one shot and one pass and a shot won't get it done for either team. Larry Johnson.
Johnson, a hand in the back, commits the foul. That's his first.
Steve, that three-point shot that Larry Johnson took, they can get that anytime they want. What, you dribble to the sideline and throw it back out to half court and shoot a 3? You got to get something going to the hoop. That has become the Knicks' trademark style.
That's the advantage they have over Indiana, is that speed and quickness. Smits, double team momentarily, goes to the left hand, rolls off. Dudley to Ward.
Smits has a better offensive mentality than the two. Told me his feet are feeling a lot better, too.
Ward to Dudley, rejected by Dale Davis. Davis sent it right back in his face. Jackson.
Terrific closeout, Allen Houston.
Now Dale Davis, low post. Kicks it back outside to Jackson, 8 to shoot. Mullin. Nearly made that impossible shot, but then fouls Chris Dudley.
Chris loves to get a little creative here. This is his hometown.
Oh, creative, is it? Here is Kurt Thomas making his first appearance in the New York lineup as Chris Dudley goes to the bench.
Well, in a game of scoring, you need some people that can score. Thomas can't. Dudley has had a couple of forays, missed them both, so there's the reason for the change. But with Charlie Ward, they're not going to get much out of their breaking situations because he's very tentative. Allen Houston trying to get his first boot.
And he cannot miss the layup. New York is 1 of 10. 10% shooting to open the game.
Just like Game 4, Miami, first round here. Van Gundy was so concerned about it. He wanted the team to be relaxed.
There's that post-up move by Jackson as Smits misses the outside shot. Van Gundy said he wanted to play loose, be aggressive, leave the game with no regrets, win or lose. Sprewell misses. is tapped by Thomas once. Got the rebound the second time. Houston for three. Rebounded by Dale Davis. They cannot buy one, under 10% shooting.
What have the Knicks been thinking about for the last 48 hours? Your whole concentration has to be make shots. Camby up off the bench, the crowd comes alive.
Here's Sprewell off the break, lost it out of bounds, an unforced error. They had the break going, and Sprewell fumbled the pass away as the Energizer, Marcus Camby, tries to turn New York around. They were plus 20 when he was in the game in Indianapolis Wednesday night, down 13 when he was on the bench. Chris Childs is also in as Charlie Ward sits down.
Tom, this crowd is so ready for blood. They're cheering guys who are taking their shirts, their jackets off.
You mean in the crowd or coming into the game?
Both. This is not the Gladiators. I want to remind you this.
That's not true, Steve.
Miller with a miss. Sprewell to Childs. Thomas wide open and then waited too long, and Smith was able to intimidate him. So he goes outside and misses badly.
Well, this is the strangest logic that you've seen. He had a 5-footer and backed up to take a 17-footer.
Kurt Thomas is a good player, but he's not Larry Bird.
New York is completely flat to open this game, reminiscent of game, what was it, 4
against Miami opening round series.
Mark Jackson nails a shot. His 5th point. The Knicks have hit one of their first 14 shots. That's 7% shooting.
Well, the best thing is they're only down 9, but they've got them right where they want them now, and they'll start going to work. Allen Houston
takes it to the rim. Maybe that'll get them started. Instead of settling for the jump shot, taking it to the hoop.
You know, they told us 1,000 times through the course of this season and the playoffs, they're a team that needs to play in desperation. And when they're desperate, they play better.
Thomas on Sprewell. Camby hits Sprewell. Thomas going to the rim for the finish. 2 straight buckets by the Knicks. And Larry Bird calls for a timeout.
But see, that timeout allows this crowd to go wild and get back into it when Bird had him down. Maybe too early on that timeout.
Chris Mellon thought that he got fouled, but this one is going to be a lame duck, and it falls right in the hand of the New York Knicks, and then they're out in a streak, and when they're playing with this kind of open floor, they're a dangerous basketball team.
Jeff Van Gundy called on his team to play loose but aggressive. He might have mentioned putting the ball in the basket, perhaps.
That usually helps.
You know what's important about offense is that you work to get it, and when you're having a poor day, you just don't stand and hop from the outside. The deepest shot is the worst percentage shot, and that's the way that the New York Knicks started this first quarter of play. Long distance and bad results.
See, one of the most fun parts of basketball, though, is the visualization and the preparation. And you see the shooting numbers tonight. Everybody just off to a miserable start. The hottest guys are Charlie Ward and Marcus Camby, who haven't scored. They haven't shot either.
Well, at least they've had good shot distribution. Antonio Davis in for Rick Smith. Offensive foul on Dale Davis.
That's the second personal foul against Dale Davis, but, you know, when Camby is like this, it's tough to get shots over him. He's got great timing, long arms, and Dale Davis is not going to jump over anybody. Picks up the personal foul. That's going to get Derek McKee into the ball game, and he'll join Antonio Davis up front.
Steve, when I was talking to Larry Bird about Marcus Camby and the problems that they've had defending him, Larry was reminding us about the problems they had with Tony Kukoc last year with Chicago, an athletic big man who just creates huge matchup problems for the Pacers. Nobody really on Indiana that can guard Camby.
What they're trying to do now is get some ball movement, player movement. They go to the 2-man game, tough shot for Allen Houston.
Guards have got a rebound for Indiana. Reggie picks up a foul.
Reggie Miller looks in disbelief as he's whistled for his first foul. I don't know that I've ever seen Tony Kukoc attack the rim and block shots the way Marcus Camby does.
But that rangy, athletic, all over the court type of style that Kukoc brings.
Childs guarded by Jackson. Sprewell off a screen. Houston, open jumper. Way short. Got his own.
That is knocked away. The problem for Allen Houston, too much anxiety here at the start of the ball game. He needs to calm down. Wide open, he just flattened that shot out.
Anxiety. Reggie Miller He's not coming back in on the defensive backboard. He's trying to leak out every time to get quick opportunity. He's been burned twice now by Houston.
There is a clear example of the difference between Chris Childs and Charlie Ward. Chris Childs will pass the ball ahead where Charlie Ward continues to dribble. So when he gets this ball out of the backcourt and pops it ahead, he puts a lot of pressure on the defense of the Indiana Pacers. A surprise, Mark Jackson said, "Not me."
Mark Jackson with a foul sends Allen Houston to the free throw line. While watching the game, log on to NBA.com for expert analysis, head-to-head stats, live sortable shot charts, in-game video highlights, and a chance to listen in to the complete post-game press conferences. And on Monday, June 14th at 2 Eastern, former Pistons guard Joe Dumars will participate in a live chat with fans, all at NBA.com.
Allen Houston misses the second of the 2 free throws. When we talked to Allen about the importance of this game, he said, "I don't look at this as a one-game deal. We got to win 5 games to win the championship." Reggie Miller still ice cold.
Sprewell, though, had to save it in bounds, couldn't control the rebound. And now Hugh Hollins and Dick Bavetta disagree. It'll be Indiana ball.
Dick Bavetta all over that ball.
Well, Childs is going to try to come in here and make a save after Sprewell mistimed his leap, got himself out of control, and the ball was clearly off of Childs. A mistake by Bavetta, but he corrected it, and Indiana gets it back. But you can tell by Allen Houston's shooting that he is very tight here at the outset of this ball game.
The marquee players struggling. Reggie Miller, 1 of 5. Sprewell, 1 of 5. Houston, 1 of 5. Jalen Rose just checks into the game. Sprewell has him. With a help rejected. Antonio Davis tapped in by McKee. Derek McKee in the right place at the right time for his first bucket.
The bench for Indiana was so badly outplayed. Canby still having a huge impact, but if Antonio Davis, Jalen, and Derek McKee can do something tonight, the Pacers have a chance.
Now remember game 3 when both teams started shooting so poorly, and then from the second quarter on they really souped up and got going. This game is a lot like that, and both teams are struggling. As you take a look at the all-time low for playoff points.
Childs with 54 seconds gives it up to Sprewell. Can't score. Got his own rebound and puts it down.
That first ball was blocked by Antonio Davis. If the Pacers can't even get the ball in bounds, how would they expect to win?
Jalen Rose, who's played a variety of positions for the Pacers, gets it to Miller. Ball fake, shot, no good. And a loose ball foul on New York.
Kurt Thomas.
The Knicks are not controlling their defensive backboard. Latrell Sprewell off the blown inbounds play. The first block rejected there by Antonio Davis, but Spree stays with it, persistent.
33 seconds to go. The Knicks need good defense. They'll get one more possession, and let's see if they can keep the Indiana Pacers out on the perimeter.
Play the clock all the way down. Put pressure on New York's defense.
Here's Derek McKee. Canby got him on the arm.
What Canby should realize in guarding someone like Derek McKee, he's longer. He doesn't have to gamble and reach for the ball. He has him under control and can't resist the temptation. And anytime you whack down, you're probably going to get the call going against you.
First free throws of the game for Indiana upcoming.
When asking Larry Bird about cutting down his rotation, which a lot of people have suggested to him, he said, "Hey, I'll play guys who earn good minutes."
Derek McKee for the second free throw. And with 22.1 seconds remaining, it's 17-11 first quarter, Indiana lead.
And they put the ball in Houston's hand, and he's got to be attacking the defense of Reggie Miller. Don't hold the ball, find a way to get in deep, forces his way in, and gets one.
And one for Allen Houston. Blocking foul called. It'll give Houston a chance for a three-point play.
The Knicks, after a horrendous start, they're down 4 points with a chance to make it 3 with the free throw here on a terrific drive. Denying penetration, a critical aspect to controlling tempo outside the line. That's a tough call to make, a blocking call against Derek McKee, who doesn't agree with the referee one bit.
Well, why do they have that line, Bill? I thought if you're outside, the call went to your favor if you were the defender.
And so now you're asking me to explain the referee's mentality.
You meet with them before every game.
Sprewell from midcourt nearly hit it as the first quarter comes to a close. As poorly as the Knicks played, they end the quarter on a 10-4 run to pull within 3. Jackson and Smits with 9 points. The Knicks starters managing only 12. At the end of the first quarter in Game 6, the Indiana Pacers leading the New York Knicks 17-14 at Madison Square Garden. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Welcome back to Madison Square Garden. I'm Jim Gray. You see the banner in the rafters. It's of Bill Bradley, former New York Knickerbocker, won 2 championships with the Knicks. He's now a presidential candidate. He joins me here at the game. Bill, do you think back to 1973 in those days, and does it feel like the same atmosphere here at Madison Square Garden?
You can't come in here in this kind of game and not have the chills go up and down your spine and remember those days when you were playing for the big one.
Let me ask you about one of your trusted campaign aides, Phil Jackson. It appears as though, reportedly, he may be headed to the Los Angeles Lakers to coach. Your thoughts on that, and how much will he be missed during the campaign?
Well, Phil could do anything he wanted to in his life. I respect him. I want what's best for Phil. I don't have any information.
You're going to miss him on the campaign?
Well, I think he'll be involved one way or another.
Phil, congratulations. Good luck to you on your campaign.
Thank you.
All right, Tom.
Okay, Jim, we start the second quarter with Travis Best, about 70% after the groin injury, making his first appearance, replacing Mark Jackson at the point. And a lackluster start to this game, almost like 2 heavyweight boxers feeling each other out in the early rounds. New York shot 5 of 23 in the first quarter, 22%. Indiana was 7 of 20, 35%, but they committed 7 turnovers.
Indiana started the game 5 for 8. Since then, they're 2 out of their last 14 shots. That won't get them. Maybe Bill Bradley should give them some shooting lessons.
Well, the New York Knicks are starting to move the ball, move people a lot better, so they're getting the defense of the Indiana Pacers broken down. Larry Johnson will go to the free throw line. It's really important to, if you're going to shoot a high percentage, you've got to be able to move people and move the ball. And the longer you hold it, the worse your chances of shooting a high percentage, unless you're having one of those torchy days and everything is going in.
You have 2 outstanding defensive teams. The question is which of these guys can get their own shots. We know that Spree can get his, Allen Houston can get his. Is anybody other than Rick Smits going to be able to answer that call for Indiana?
You're telling me Rick Smits can get his own shot? Somebody's got to bring him the ball. You can't just walk out there and dribble down and shoot.
You give him the ball within 15 feet, he can get a shot.
Fast break points, all even at 2 apiece so far. The Knicks need a big advantage in the transition points in order to have a chance to beat the bigger Pacers.
Jalen Rose has got a matchup that favors him if he uses his quickness against Larry Johnson. Inside, Davis couldn't control it.
Rose for 3. Jalen Rose can't hit. Rebounded by Thomas. Childs to Houston. Over Miller. Got it. Friendly garden bounce for Allen Houston. First lead for the New York Knicks after shooting 22% in the opening quarter. They lead by 1.
Bird keeps going deeper and deeper into that bench. This is where they fell apart the last game.
Well, he's got less patience, and the hook is very quick, so he didn't like the rebounding effort. Someone's going to pay for that.
He's got a lot more patience than I've got.
Travis Best misses the floater. We knew that. Childs gets a screen from Thomas. And Travis Best, trying to get over the top, is called for the push. Needless foul there by Travis Best.
You get them in transition, and they have a chance to get quick scoring opportunities from Allen Houston and Sprewell. He got that one to go. That may get that jumper from the perimeter to ignite for Houston and the Knicks, but they get their first lead with that shot. And as I said before, they don't seem to play well until they're behind.
They've got lots of practice at it.
Sam Perkins, who'll be 38 years old on Monday, has entered the Indiana lineup.
9 on the clock for Larry Johnson.
Too much standing.
Hamby makes a flash to the rim, but Johnson got it away and hit it. What was it? What'd you say?
Great shot. Perfect execution, just as Van Gundy drew it up.
You know, Marcus Camby hasn't scored and has just 1 rebound, but does he ever bring energy? New York is now 16-6 since Camby entered the game. I don't think it's just coincidence.
Absolutely not. And Larry Johnson draws a great offensive foul here on Derek McKee.
What Larry Johnson was doing, knowing he could get a shot, was holding, but he got the finish. That was the best part of that play. And when you're making shots, everything looks good. And for Larry Johnson and the New York Knicks, they're back and the Garden is alive.
And Derek McKee just picks up his 3rd foul. The clock is ticking on this Garden crowd. New York on a 9-0 run. An absolutely perfect day in the boroughs of New York City today, and everywhere you went, everyone talked about the New York Knicks and Marcus Camby, who's been the player of the series.
The wonderful thing about Marcus Camby is he is still feeling his way, and suddenly he has found a way to be a dominant factor here in the conference finals. And in the last 3 ball games, it's double-doubles, high numbers in both categories, 18, 21 points, 13, 14 rebounds. He has really had an impact on the mindset of the Indiana Pacers.
The intangibles, when you can bring something like tipping loose balls, controlling the flow of the game, that's just a remarkable contribution to your team. Very few players can do that without putting offensive numbers on the board.
Larry Johnson cut off by Antonio Davis. Promptly hits the fall away. Now, after a brutal shooting first quarter, the Knicks are starting to get everything done.
And the crowd is surging right now, Tom. This is Larry Bird's worst nightmare. Going with the subs here. Terrible pass, Antonio. Not earning those minutes the way Larry wants him to.
Travis Best with a kick. New York will get it with a fresh 24.
This is the kind of game that Larry Bird loved, but this is not the kind of game that the Pacers are handling very well, and all the energy that they're expending is very negative and anxiety-ridden. You're rolling your arm.
That's traveling. He changed his pivot foot 3 times on the entire move. If they're going to allow that, nobody. Bill Russell couldn't stop that.
Well, they got a traveling call right there, but you just said to me, how are you going to explain the officials? And then you make your own call.
Travis Best gets hit in the head. To me, it's a big gamble that Larry Bird's even going with Travis Best. There was no practice yesterday. Larry Bird is going with Travis Best's word that he's okay. He hasn't done anything in practice to show that he's got game right now, coming back from that tough groin injury.
Well, they're looking for anything at the moment, though. Indiana, 9 turnovers and just 7 field goals. Illegal defense called against the Knicks. And that's the 2nd one, so a technical foul.
Everybody's trying to get up there to shoot this free throw. Chris Mullin from the New York City area definitely wants to put on a show for his friends and family.
Is this perhaps the last game for Travis Best and the Indiana Pacers this season? It's now or never. Whether he's 10% or 100%, he's got to try to give them something.
Yeah, but Steve, the Pacers have fallen behind when they've gone to this 2nd unit. And a terrible pass by Sam. And now they've lost all momentum. The crowd is about to surge and storm the court here. Now they're going to bring the starters back in.
They're going to storm the court now?
Yeah.
9 turnovers, 2 field goals by Indiana the last 10 minutes.
They're trying to use that pick and roll action with captain so many shots in the 4th quarter, and it gets one for Kurt Thomas right there.
Maybe the Pacers could take a lesson in patience for the Knicks, because the Knicks began the first quarter with abysmal shooting and now have worked their way out of it.
How about Kurt Thomas, though? What a turnaround for him. 4 points and 6 rebounds off the bench.
And no fouls, huh? 1 foul. Kurt Thomas knocks the ball out of bounds. Indiana retains as Dick Pavetta discusses it with Kurt Thomas.
Now, Larry Johnson jumped right in there. He wanted to make sure that Kurt Thomas, after this field goal, did not end up giving his team a technical. So he got in there and got some separation. Antonio Davis, nice move on the inbound play.
Worked his way free for the slam, Antonio.
Steve, how can you get backdoored by Antonio Davis on a baseline out of bounds play for a dunk?
Closed his eyes. He went to sleep.
Wake up. You said it. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. Isn't that what you said the other day?
That's right.
It worked for the Knicks, too.
Jalen Rose with a foul, and Allen Houston raised his arms and said, hey, what am I supposed to do?
Well, you're going to look at the inbound play, and everybody in the Knicks went to sleep. No pressure on the ball, and the best thing you could do is cut to the basket. Big finish for Antonio Davis.
They must have been denying Antonio's three-point shot.
And coming up this Thursday, our coverage of the U.S. Open Golf Championship. America's championship begins from famed Pinehurst in North Carolina. Featured in our Thursday broadcast, Greg Norman, Davis Love III, Justin Leonard, Lee Jansen, Mark O'Meara, and Corey Pavin. The U.S. Open, golf's greatest championship. 4 days of coverage beginning this Thursday, 3 Eastern here on NBC. The only one that has 4 days of over-the-air broadcast coverage. You want to take that little TV into work, you have no problem watching the U.S. Open.
Corey Pavin from UCLA.
I knew we got it in early today. We didn't have to wait till the fourth quarter.
That gives them an edge in winning that tournament.
Travis Best, nice individual effort, top for his first score. And, you know, scoring problem or not, they need that kind of offensive energy from Travis Best. Kurt Thomas against Mullen.
Mullen held his ground and took the rebound. 4 rebounds for Chris Mullen. Pick and roll, Rose, back to Antonio Davis. Took a big giant step to the hoop and put it through.
The second unit, Bill, that you've been beaten up so much is starting to get a little resolve and having some good things happening. Jeff Van Gundy wants a timeout.
They were ahead when they came on the court. Now they're behind. Call that resolve, please.
Travis Best with a bucket, and Indiana working its way back.
Penetration. Jalen Rose to the hoop. Terrific, strong finish. No pump fake, no double clutch.
You're watching the NBA on NBC. Knicks hoping to be the first 8th seed to make the NBA Finals, and Commissioner David Stern is here perhaps to see history made tonight.
The game of basketball is all about putting the ball in the hoop. The Knicks starting to penetrate, get inside the porous defense. And throughout these clips here, you have too many Pacers standing there with their arms way up in the air. When a shooter sees that, he knows that the defense has given up. When the defense is poised and has their arms at their shoulders ready to pounce on that ball, they've got a chance. But Allen Houston really heating up. First 9 minutes, 0 points. Last 8, 10. So he's got his game going.
Well, what the Knicks are going to try to ride this pick and roll, do some good offense, and they find Camby right at the rim.
Larry Johnson made the pass, Camby the slam. Rick Schmidt re-enters the Indiana lineup, and Reggie Miller is back as well.
You know, Tom, on your plus-minus, we ought to probably try Chris Childs out on the floor as well, because since he's come in, the New York Knicks offense has been a lot more fluid.
I hate to agree with you, Steve.
And then don't.
but I do.
Here's Childs. That was, I don't think you want to brag about that one. Then Camby.
Now that's Marcus Camby starting to earn the respect of the officials.
He gets the call. It's a blocking foul against Indiana.
Well, picking up the loose balls. They've all been right there for Marcus Camby. Again, outside the line. Great shot of it. Judgment called in favor of the Knicks.
Well, one thing Camby had on his mind, remember that throwdown he had against Mutombo? Hit a quick flashback. He did a little bit too far away that time, but he was looking for some real heat that time.
Camby misses the free throw. And don't forget, if the Pacers force a Game 7, we'll be there. Showtime starts Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Then shortly after 7:30 Eastern, the conclusion of the Knicks-Pacers series, which has been a tremendous matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals. It'll be from Market Square Arena, NBA Showtime, followed by Game 7. If the Pacers win tonight, it'll all be starting at 7 Eastern Time here on NBC.
Misses 2 free throws, comes back and gets scored on in the lane. Marcus Camby.
And Best comes up limping after he took it right to the bigger Camby, the shot blocker, and scored. And Larry Johnson is also down for the Knicks.
Oh, shit!
Mike Saunders in the white shirt, the great legendary trainer for the New York Knicks. You hate to see this happen to anybody, particularly such a vital cog in the Knicks offense.
Patrick Ewing knows the pain.
We get a look, and we'll watch for Larry Johnson.
Fell against his leg.
And Travis Best, in going down, comes right down on the knee. You take a look at the bottom right of your screen, and you will see the collision as he rolls right into him. And both players took a shot on that. And Travis Best with the groin came up limping, and Larry Johnson is still down as we get one more look at the collision.
It's amazing that there's not more injuries in professional basketball of this nature, with the strength, the power, the speed, the quickness, the way they're flying around, and bodies just falling in to the knee that was planted.
Well, already they've lost Patrick Ewing. Already shorthanded up front, only 10 players available. And now Larry Johnson, one of their big three scorers, lies on the floor at the Garden.
Just got an explanation of what the Knicks had called. They called a 20-second timeout, but because they cannot get that substitute off, they can't get Larry Johnson off the floor, they can't get the substitute in, so we have a break in the action. The officials are just, they're doing the right thing right now by letting the trainer take care of Larry Johnson, make sure that he's okay before they try to get play started here again.
Larry Johnson has had such a sensational series, that miraculous 4-point play, and what 3-point shots he's hit all during this series.
This was game 3 when he hit 3 3-pointers, all of them desperations to beat the shot clock each and every time, and then the miraculous 4-point play to get the victory. Game 5, off penetration, and the perfect finish for the Knicks. Childs down the lane once again. 2 times in the fourth quarter, Larry Johnson hits big 3-point shots. How are they going to make that up? They're playing so shorthanded as it is.
Well, adversity, you know, will find a hero, and many times in situations like this where your team is on the verge of doing something special, good things happen for
They're
you.
calling for the big guys. That means they got to carry him off here. They're calling for Dudley, Herb Williams. Kurt Thomas should get over there. He's a young guy. He's not going to get tired.
LJ scores 8 points tonight, 6 coming in this quarter as the Knicks got their offense untracked. And now Larry Johnson goes down on the collision with Travis Best.
Dr. Norman Scott on the left of your screen in the suit. The one who's been responsible for so many athletes getting back onto the court.
And Marcus Camby has said all along that Larry Johnson was the man that helped him through the tough times when Camby was getting virtually no playing time. And Jeff Van Gundy has said all along that this is a quiet team. They really have only one vocal leader, and that's Larry Johnson. So their vocal leader, their clutch 3-point shooter, now injured and being helped from the court. What does this do, first of all, to the lineup that the Knicks hadn't put on the floor, and second of all, to their psyche?
It's always an incredibly deflating moment. And the first thing you want to do when somebody gets injured, if you're one of the key guys, is you've got to just get away from it. Just don't even think about it, because it can happen to anybody at any time. You got to go to the other end of the court and start thinking about your game. Spree, Camby, Allen Houston. Hey, more shots for me, more aggressiveness. It's my game. There's nothing anybody can do to stop me, and I cannot think about the problems, severe as they may seem for Larry Johnson right now.
Well, Sprewell is back for New York, and Houston is the man that replaces Larry Johnson. Here's Sprewell, short, got his own rebound.
Tom, the Knicks have played the underdog role to the hilt all playoffs long. Now it's even more so. So they just got to take that attitude. We got enough. We got to play our game. We've got Spree and Houston and Camby, and that can get it done.
Well, in order to get it done, they've got to be more assertive and aggressive, because the Indiana Pacers are certainly a bigger team and should be trying to pound the ball inside. They come right back with Rick Smith.
And Smith ties the game at 28. 6 points for Rick. Sprewell continues to struggle for New York, only 2 of 10 shooting. Here's Childs. He misses 2 in a row. I don't think he's the one they want taking the shots. Miller, ball fake of Houston, somehow got the shot away. trying to draw the foul, and the officials say nothing doing.
You see him carrying Larry Johnson off, and he's not putting any weight on that right leg at all, so that's not a very good sign for the New York Knicks.
The agony on the face. That is the saddest feeling, the sense of loneliness, the sense of isolation that Ewing is already going through now in the psyche of Larry Johnson.
2 consecutive skip passes across the defense. Childs penetrates, and Camby is fouled before the basket.
Marcus Camby is a player that plays extremely well without the basketball, and that's how he's going to get most of his points, and that's the problem for Larry Bird. As you take a look at a shorthanded New York Knicks bench, and Jeff Van Gundy knows that now this is the time. We don't have anything else to be concerned about. If we don't win this game, we're in trouble come Sunday.
Dale Davis replaces Antonio Davis, who just picked up his 2nd foul. And for New York, you might say this is a Game 7. They would be shorthanded, having to go to Indianapolis to play on Sunday, so their best chance of advancing would be right here, right now. And they have a 2-point lead. Reggie Miller of Indiana's gone in another one of those lapses. Scoreless the last 14 minutes. He's hit only 1 of 7 tonight. Good defense on him there by Allen Houston and help from Chris Childs.
As long as New York does not get stuck getting big man on, big man on little men, they have an excellent chance to use their speed and quickness as they attack the rim with Marcus Camby.
Who else? Camby and 1. That was a difficult shot.
That was not difficult, Tom. That was unbelievable. That was right there with Larry Johnson's 4-point play here. He just threw it up, tried not to get hurt as the body checked there by Mark Jackson. Jackson, all he can do is foul. But the transition game, ignited by the slow and poor post-entry pass by Dale Davis, and the crowd is back in. Now Sprewell has got his spring back, and Camby has certainly provided that huge lift that we've come to expect from him.
7 points the last 2.5 minutes for Marcus Camby. Smith fouled by Childs. The basket will count.
That's going to be the concern right there for Jeff Van Gundy. They can't allow him to get that deep post position. This ball is too deep, and Childs realized it, but he doesn't grab it. So he lets him get that arm in the air, and now you got a chance for a 3-point play.
Van Gundy can't believe it, but that last time was a perfect example of the benefits of a great, crisp, hard snap post-entry pass. Jalen Rose, unlike Dale Davis the previous time, put it right on the money and gave Smith some rhythm.
What's a forward going to do passing the ball? You need a guard. You need somebody like Jalen Rose anyway.
Talk about Larry Bird. Talk about Bob Gross and Jamal Wilkes. Well, maybe we won't talk about Jamal passing.
Sprewell attacks Mark Jackson and lays it in. Nice spin move by Sprewell, who has a half-dozen points. New York by 4.
Pacers have not adjusted whatsoever to Sprewell finishing every time with his left hand in the paint.
Outside shot by Jalen Rose. Rose connects for his first bucket of the game, cuts the lead back to 2.
Rose quiet in Game 5 after having a tremendous game where he had 19 points in Game 4. They need that kind of activity from him. Childs and Sprewell 2-man game.
Sprewell for 3. Continues to shoot poorly, 3 of 12.
Spree doesn't have 3-point range. His shot basically goes out to about 18 feet, and then his ability to get to the free throw line, that's the real strength of his game.
Reggie Miller has also struggled with his shot. Backs up for a 3. Short. Smith's kept it alive until Camby put 2 strong hands around it. Reggie's 1 of 8. Childs hits Camby. Missed that one. Jackson has it for Indiana.
Thomas was frozen watching. You got to keep moving. You're playing with somebody who's hot. Never stop.
Miller. That one won't go down. Tap twice. On the floor to Miller, tries it again, still can't score. Camby the rebound as Childs and Dale Davis were wrapped up.
Get to the hoop here for Spree.
Kurt Thomas. Easy rebound for Smits.
What the Knicks aren't doing right now, and they're taking advantage of Indiana's poor shooting, is getting the ball to the right offensive player. Kurt Thomas, bailout jumper, they don't get it, and that gives Indiana a chance to regroup during this timeout.
Thank you, Hannah. There is Mark Jackson. You'll be hearing from him at halftime. A quality person, New York native, so many ties to the Knicks. On his shoes, he gave a tribute to his dad, Harry. Thanks, Dad. Shortly after that, a child was born, and he took his other children into the delivery room, said after they witnessed the death of their grandfather, he wanted them to see life renewing with the birth of another child. And you remember the story, the Knicks were playing in Indianapolis, and Mark was returning to New York for the funeral. Jeff Van Gundy insisted he ride on the Knicks charter. Mark said, no, that wouldn't be right. And Jeff said, absolutely, it would be right. You must come with us. And Mark said he will forever be grateful for that touching gesture by Jeff Van Gundy and the Knicks.
And Mark is an unbelievable person. One of his best friends as a kid and growing up through college at St. John's was paralyzed in a drive-by shooting. Mark Jackson has raised personally over $10 million for spinal cord research, inspired by his best buddy there from St. John's.
Hamby with a lob pass. And a foul call. And for an update on the Larry Johnson injury, let's go to Jim Gray.
All right, Tom. Right now, Larry Johnson is being evaluated by Dr. Norman Scott back in the training room. They do have x-ray equipment and all of the modern technology here at Madison Square Garden. They have yet to make a determination just exactly what it is or how severe the right knee injury is. They're probably going to wait through halftime and then give us something at that point. Tom?
All right, Jim. Allen Houston to the free throw line. During the last break in action, Chris Dudley came in for New York, and now Smits, who just picked up his second foul, leaves, replaced by Antonio Davis.
Well, Larry Bird is going to try to protect Smits, and so he's not going to let him play for the final 142. He knows how quickly he can pick up fouls. Houston gets that one to roll in, and so the Knicks lead climbs to 4.
How about Reggie Miller, though, Steve? He started 1 for 2 on a fast break layup, 0 for 8 over the last 16 minutes for Reggie.
Jalen Rose, Indiana needs more from him. Here's Miller. Keep shooting, Larry Bird says. And Reggie Miller gets his second field goal. It's a long-range 2. So after all the misses, he went to the bench. We saw Larry Bird say, keep shooting, and it pays off.
Well, there was a game last year in Larry Bird's first year coaching Reggie where Reggie went like 0 for 16 or something like that. Horrendous night.
Houston with a dish to Dudley, who absolutely bricked the shot while turning his back to the basket.
But after that game, Larry Bird told Reggie Miller, hey, look, you're our shooter. Go 0 for 20. Just keep putting it up, and that's what he called that timeout for a couple of possessions ago, and Reggie's come out firing with the confidence, breathed life into him by his coach, Larry Bird.
Couldn't get back-to-back buckets, though, and with 45 seconds left in the half, New York with the ball up 2. Sprewell. Rose with a reach-in foul, Jalen Rose.
You know, the Indiana PaCers are leaving Chris Dudley open. And
why not?
Well, that's right. and you know, fortunately, as we take a look back at the foul, the Knicks are helping the defense of the Pacers by giving the ball to Dudley. You get a guy cutting through the hoop, he hops out, his chances of making his shot are remote, and yet they continue to throw the ball in there. It helps them. It doesn't help the New York Knicks.
Thursday night, Shamika Holtzclaw scored 18 points in her WNBA debut, so we all get a chance to see the two-time Collegiate Player of the Year as she leads the Washington Mystics against two-time MVP Cynthia Cooper and the champion Houston Comets on NBC tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.
Oh, they're going right to her. How does that make the rest of the women feel in the WNBA, Tom? They've got game 2, right?
They do indeed, as we check in with Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Larry Johnson has a sprained ligament in his right knee. The x-rays were negative. He's being taken to the hospital for an MRI. He is out for the season. Out for the game. They will evaluate the season after the MRI. Tom?
All right, Jim.
Well, this could very well be the season.
Right, it could be.
So it's one and the same. Jim Gray on top of it as always.
Charlie Ward back in the ball game. Chris Childs out for the final 27 seconds of this first half.
Jackson posting up Charlie Ward, who gets rid of it to Rose. Attacking Sprewell. Hamby's there to help. And it was saved inbounds.
The Knicks get the ball to Allen Houston to work for the final shot as they did, and the crowd comes to their feet.
Houston got it!
That is exactly what New York needed. Get the crowd going wild into halftime with the 6-point lead.
No, it rimmed out. From midcourt, Mark Jackson had it, and it just rimmed out as the buzzer sounds.
Allen Houston just taking over. Spree has been getting it done on his own way. Now Allen Houston says, we got a two-man attack here. It's okay that Larry Johnson's gone. We've got enough to win this game. This is the one we have to win.
And you see Mark Jackson with that Hail Mary that touches all four corners of the rim, but doesn't stay.
And since the LJ injury, the New York Knicks regroup. They've outscored Indiana 13-9 in that time. Now stay tuned for the Prudential Halftime Report coming up after these messages. The NBA on NBC. Despite shooting only 33% in the first half, the New York Knicks trying to close out the series, lead the Indiana Pacers at halftime 41-35. But the big moment in this first half, inside the spotlighted circle, Larry Johnson. Travis Best falls against his right knee. There you see it again. The preliminary report is a sprained ligament in that right knee. He was helped from the court, helped back to the locker room, wheeled in the wheelchair to the ambulance, being taken for a precautionary MRI. But Larry Johnson obviously out for the rest of the game, and perhaps for the rest of the playoffs. They await further word on that. But no question that's taken some of the crowd away. I don't know how many people stopped by here at halftime wanting to know about LJ, and it leaves them with only, 9 players available.
But, Tom, the Knicks have to absolutely forget about it. There's nothing LJ can do anymore. If you're in that situation, you got to figure, hey, it's my game. I don't care about the rest of the guys. Whoever we have out there, just keep playing, keep running, find that hot hand, and milk them.
So you suddenly turn to the Knicks, huh? Just doing that Jerry Garcia thing again, huh? No place to go, just hang around, right?
If you start evoking Jerry Garcia, Steve, that worked for you in Game 5. It seems to be working again. Because
pretty soon he's going to be switching teams every quarter.
Well, you know, what the Pacers have to do very quickly, though, is forget that Larry Johnson is not there and play their game.
In fact, New York outscored Indiana 13-9 after LJ left the game with that injury. We're getting ready for the third quarter. New York bidding to close the series. Indiana trying to stay alive for a Game 7. 41-35 at half. Welcome back to New York in Madison Square Garden, where just a few moments ago, Jim Gray talked with Jeff Van Gundy.
All right, thank you, Tom. Larry Johnson has been taken to the hospital for a cautionary MRI. The team doctors now say that they are slightly optimistic that he might be able to play once again this season. Jeff, the mood in the locker room, and do you now feel like this is Game 7 with the loss of Larry?
Well, we just have to play well. We have more than enough to win with. We just got to hang in there, hang around, and play well.
No one's moping?
Shouldn't be. You know, Larry sets a great example, and he'd want us to continue to play very hard and go for the win.
Jeff, good luck in the second half.
Thanks.
All right, Tom, back out to you.
Okay, Jim, and once again, the Knicks did outscore the Pacers 13-9 after LJ left. Marcus Camby once again energizing New York. Second half begins. Charlie Ward with Kurt Thomas, Allen Houston, Chris Dudley, and Latrell Sprewell. Houston bounces it off Rick Smith's foot out of bounds. New York's ball was 14 to shoot. Indiana has Mark Jackson, Dale Davis, Chris Mullin, Reggie Miller, and Rick Smith's their original starting 5.
If you're an offensive player, as Houston and Sprewell are, this is when you find out how much courage they're going to have. Kurt Thomas is in the game. He's got to give us some offense. He turns it over on a traveling violation.
Kurt Thomas, the man who starts in place of the injured Larry Johnson.
How long is Van Gundy going to go with Charlie Ward in the lineup and Chris Childs and Marcus Camby on the bench?
Well, again, those two guys give him energy, and so they've got to go with that and get a little bit of something from Charlie Ward and then hope that this big boost comes from Childs and Camby to get the win.
Speaking of a boost, the only player doing anything for Indiana is Rick Smith, surprisingly.
The turnovers continue to plague them. That's 13 Indiana turnovers. Thomas, the entry pass to Sprewell. Gets right around Mullin. Smiths to help. And
Steps
out of bounds. Sprewell steps out of bounds, so turnovers galore here to open the third quarter. One positive sign for New York, they've battled foul trouble, of course, all series. Nobody in foul trouble for them because they do have the 9 players available. 2 fouls on Childs, 5 others with 1 each.
Tom, if they're going to give you that baseline move, Jackson beautifully in the lane there, but if they're going to give you that baseline move like Sprewell just utilized, you got to set up on the lane a little bit higher so that you don't step out of bounds when you drop step them.
Mark Jackson makes it a 4-point game.
Well, if you're Indiana, you got to know the two guys that got to make buckets are Houston and Sprewell. And as I said before, I don't know why the Knicks dropped the ball into Dudley's hand, because it helps out the defense of the Indiana PaCers.
They ought to invite him to shoot.
Well, they're not guarding Dudley. Schmitz is doing an outstanding job of stepping out against the screen and roll tonight.
Reggie Miller misses. Put back by Dale Davis.
2 points. It came underneath through the basket. Dudley did. It was going to be a goaltending anyway, but Mark Jackson finally started the scoring for the Indiana PaCers with an effort of his own. Danced around, dropped it in, and that hoop brings him back within 2.
Charlie Ward looks petrified out there.
New York starts the quarter with 2 straight turnovers. 3 if you count Dudley's bad-looking shot.
Chris Dudley has struggled. He's got to find some way to get a decent offensive rhythm.
But they left Jackson alone, and he made him pay. Mark Jackson ties the game at 41. New York takes a 20-second timeout.
That's the most animated I've seen Larry Bird in a long time, up cheering the guys on, bringing them in, barking at them.
But it's been Mark Jackson in a 2-man game that's opened up the middle. You see Dudley does not close. Matter of fact, he's so concerned about Schmitz, he chases off of him, leaves Mark Jackson wide open. Back-to-back buckets for Jackson in a tie ball game for the Indiana PaCers.
But the decision has been made that they're more concerned about Schmitz than Mark Jackson, as Larry Bird ecstatic that the PaCers have come out sharp to start the third.
And Mark Jackson, the subject of that Showtime halftime piece, leading Indiana to a 6-0 run to open the third, and the game tied at 41.
It has been a series of runs in the previous 5 games, and it's now up to the Knicks to get a little offensive energy going. And again, the 2 guys that are going to give it to them are Sprewell and Houston, and they've got to look to be aggressive at the offensive end.
Here's Houston with a screen from Thomas and a traveling call on Allen Houston. Turnovers plaguing the New York Knicks.
2 times, Tom, right in front of the PaCer bench. The Knicks called for traveling. Kurt Thomas, then Allen Houston. 2 guys with pretty good footwork.
Mark Jackson got the roll, but Schmitz was on the rim, and they say, yes, count the basket.
Hugh Hollins is saying score, but it was Schmitz who grabbed the rim.
This is the wrong call
yes,
here by Hollins. Schmitz pulls up there, and it's Schmitz that pulls the rim down. That's an absolute mistake by the referees, Hugh Hollins.
That should have been an offensive basket interference, but no, the basket is credited, and Indiana has the lead, 43-41.
The concern for Jeff Van Gundy is that his team is losing that confidence in that edge. He's trying to encourage him to play on. Charlie Ward
misses the 3. Dudley and Schmitz scrapping for the rebound on the floor. Picked up by Mark Jackson.
This is just like the start of the game, where the PaCers came out perfect. Bird went to the bench, and it was a disaster.
Reggie Miller for 3. Got it! Reggie Miller hits the 3-pointer, and Indiana once again begins by blitzing New York. Remember, New York began the game by hitting only 1 of its first 14 shots.
Terrific defense, Indiana. Igniting fast break opportunities, digging it out here on the run. Creates wide open shots. That's money.
11-0 Indiana run. Full complement of celebs turned out for Game 6 of the Garden. Donald Trump, there's Puff Daddy, Woody Allen, Sun Yi, Jerry Stiller, Billy Crystal. Matt Modine is here as usual. Matt Dillon. And Jerry Seinfeld in a front row seat, not too far from us.
Well, it finally happened. Camby and Childs got back in the ball game. He realized he wasn't getting any offense and immediately had to get these guys in that made something happen. You know, the passes that went to Dudley, no finish. You get to Camby, you get some sort of chance to score the basketball. He gets fouled on that play.
And what changes, you look at the plus minus there. Again, very positive for Marcus Camby. Camby moves with the ball. Dudley tends to come to a dead stop, and the defense can react.
Our first WNBA game of the season is coming up tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern time. Shamiqua Holsclaw, the College Player of the Year from Tennessee, had 18 in her WNBA debut, but the Washington Mystics and Shamiqua go against two-time league MVP Cynthia Cooper and the two-time champion Houston Comets. WNBA tomorrow, 4 Eastern.
First points of the half for the Knicks, outscored 11-0 before that free throw by Camby.
Do you think Van Gundy is a little stubborn and waits too long to put back in Marcus Camby and Chris Childs?
No, he's trying to get something out of everybody. He's got a very short bench anyway. He's very concerned about fouls. He wants Childs and Camby around for the end, and knowing how they have to guard Smits, how they have to guard the Davises, and Childs has got Mark Jackson or Reggie Miller. Foul trouble could be very big for the Knicks down the stretch.
But I think Van Gundy's sensing the game getting away from him a little bit, went to them earlier than usual in his rotation.
But he had no choice. You know, he's got to have scoring out there now to match with the Indiana Pacers to throw it at him. They're going to get an offensive foul this time against a rooting Mark Jackson, just bumping, and he looks around questioning the call of Mike Mathis. You see him come in, and he's just rooting in with his rear end right here. This time, Childs is able to stand his ground, and he says, thank you.
When are they going to call that on Shaq?
Well, not this year. He's not playing.
He got a bigger rear end, too. Thomas misses the shot. Indiana rebounds. That was the 3rd foul on Mark Jackson.
As a defender, you love it when a Mike Mathis steps out there and makes that call.
One of the things that Childs does better than Charlie Wood is pressure Mark Jackson, make him pick the ball up. That's going to force Indiana and Miller to work against the clock. They trap him in the corner.
Terrific escape pass by Reggie.
And Smits hits the shot from the top of the key. Rick Smits now with 11 points.
Rick Smits in his career has not been a great road playoff performer. Ask the Chicago Bulls. His best performances have been right here in this building.
They need offense right now, and Allen Houston is going to start finding his way in this ball game. That's his first shot attempt here in the 3rd quarter of play.
He's the game's high scorer with 16.
Steve, the crowd is so hungry. They desperately want to get up on top here. The Knicks have got to give them a chance. Offensive foul. Smits away from the ball on a step-out screen.
The one thing about Smits is there's no thought about what's happening away from the ball. He just keeps moving. There's no way he cannot get called. There's no subtlety in his game.
Stand still as a screener. Larry is not happy with any of the screens set by the Pacers. Stand still and let the offensive receiver use that screen.
Here's an offensive foul on a screen by Thomas, who steps on Reggie Miller. And is going to be teed up, I believe, yes, he will be, by Mike Mathis.
Remember what Van Gundy told us about being aggressive and reckless, and Kurt Thomas has been reckless the entire time. That's not a good play, and he compound it worse. He steps right over him. He can avoid this, and he decides, well, I'll just step on you, Reggie, and end up getting the technical. Mark Jackson ran up to him and told him, hey, that's not professional, unnecessary.
It was stupid.
Thank you, John. Mental toughness, mental discipline. Kurt Thomas, you've got the chance of a lifetime. His life, if the Knicks win this game here, their life will never be the same again. And here they are. They had the lead. They've come out flat, and now they're cracking again. The fragility of this team's psyche. Oh, such a mystery.
Well, remember, they got to get behind before they start playing good. Okay. You know, the last time they were 13-4 before they got a run going. Turnover right here.
I'm about ready to buy into that, Steve. You keep selling me.
Pressure defense pays off. Sprewell, Thomas, and they get the secondary break for the bucket. And they cut the lead to 3. Smits back to Dale Davis for the jam. Nice ball movement. Davis gave it to Smits and kept going to the rim. And Dale Davis has 6 points.
Now the Knicks, but the Knicks know with their small lineup, the only chance to win is pressure on the ball movement. Childs has not been able to buy a bucket, misses that one.
Why?
Yeah, why does he shoot?
They come up, they got a full shot clock. You got Houston and Spree, who you're trying to get off. Nobody under the boards, traveling on Smits.
Smits protests the call. He said, my toe's broken. Give me a break.
I like it when they call traveling. double dribble, 3 seconds, offensive fouls. I think that helps to clean up the game a lot.
Now, as much as we've been talking about the New York Knicks and their ineptitude, they're only down 5 points. They're in this ball game, so they're hanging around. They've done what they've done so well, and all they need is an offensive hero, and it is got to be Allen Houston and Sprewell. Houston.
Beautiful drive as Reggie Miller slams the ball out of the net after Allen Houston went right around him and beat Smits as well.
And Childs is now up applying pressure. Larry Johnson is usually the guy that helps double team, but he can't play. A bumping foul in the backcourt by Childs.
Now, Allen Houston is attacking the defensive Reggie Miller, and Miller doesn't move his feet. That allows the seam to open up, and 2 for Houston. He's got 4 points in the quarter.
Remember, game 5, Houston's huge at the start of the third quarter, really gave the Knicks momentum.
Jackson kicks it back outside to Miller for 3. Rebounded by Camby. Here's Sprewell in a hurry.
Kurt Thomas has got to play harder and smarter for the rest of the game.
Chris Childs penetrates, gives it up to Camby and takes it back. Camby against Smith, baseline. And an illegal defense call against Indiana.
Where did that come from?
There
was 8 guys on the move, dashing to the hoop here.
I'll take a look up top, and you'll see Chris Mellon as he slides back. He just keeps stepping, and now he's going to go inside the line. He's not guarding anybody. It's an easy call to make.
The guy's driving to the hoop. There's a pass there, and you blow an illegal defense. What are you supposed to do? Stand out there and watch everybody else play?
He still was watching everybody else play when they called it. Houston the free throw.
Larry Bird working Mike Mathis about that illegal call whistled by Hugh Hollins.
So the Knicks crawl within 2, and with the hoop here, they can either tie the game or go ahead. So, maybe a little adversity gives them a slap in the face, cold water, and they get energized.
It's amazing. Well, that seems to be the formula for success for New York. Only when cornered do they seem to play their best. Houston picks up the foul. Reggie Miller with a hand check.
Tom, we're seeing a clinic right now by Allen Houston in terms of footwork. Not every shot is going down. Reggie's doing a decent job on him, but the way Allen Houston is deliberately getting that pivot foot, the outside foot, stepping with that right forward, that was Michael Jordan's, his ability to get what he wanted. That's what we're seeing from Allen Houston right now.
Well, it seems like they've always had someone to step up and become the hero. Will it be Allen Houston tonight? Will it be someone else? Here's Houston against Miller.
They need the crowd. They need the crowd, and the lead is going to give that crowd that lift.
Miller tagged with his 3rd. So Indiana now has Dale Davis with 3, Rick Smits with 3, Reggie Miller with 3, Mark Jackson with 3.
Look at Houston's right foot there, the one that's so important to get down there.
The problem for Reggie Miller defensively is he's playing Allen Houston straight up. Childs out of control. They wanted to travel. They didn't get it. Sprewell
Can't hit baseline. Put again by Camby.
Who's guarding that guy?
Nobody, obviously. Nobody's keeping him off the board, that's for sure. 10 points for Marcus Camby. We're tied at 51. Smits. No way to stop that at 7'4". Rick Smits turns and fires in the jump hook. He has 13. Indiana back up by 2.
The way to stop it is pressure to passer. If you let Mark Jackson or any of those guards see Smits that deep, it's an easy delivery. They're coming back to Houston. They're trying to keep him from getting his hands on the ball with Mark Jackson as a defender, and they get another foul.
So they switch defenders, put Jackson on him instead of Miller, and Jackson picks up his 4th foul.
So few of the Indiana Pacers are having any impact on this game. Foul here, Mark Jackson pushing, keeping him off balance. Tough call between a couple of veterans there. Where's Dale Davis? Where's Chris Mullen?
One more puts the New York Knicks into the penalty, and Houston's looking to drive this ball.
Smits comes to help, doesn't matter. Houston blows by Jackson and Smits. 21 for Allen Houston. Game tied at 53.
Ewing up, leading the cheers. Whistles virtually every trip up and down the court.
And Allen Houston is getting that great first step on Reggie Miller, and nobody's closing the middle. You can't drive from that far out without somebody on the other side seeing you, and he gets an easy 2.
Allen Houston keeping the New York Knicks in it. 3:17 left in the third. Tied at 53.
What the New York Knicks says, they need to find an offensive hero. They are riding the quick shooting of Allen Houston, and he's been slashing and attacking the defense of the Indiana Pacers. Mark Jackson and Reggie Miller makes no difference who's in front of him. He is the guy that has carried the New York Knicks back into this ball game. He's made 7, Bill. That's a different series for you.
With Allen Houston putting on an offensive clinic here, you're seeing a lifetime of work, of discipline, of practice and playing one-on-one. And now with Marcus Camby, who along with Chris Childs, who played the exact minutes here, the +18 when they're in, the -18 when they're out, that's a 36-point swing. That is an incredible swing.
Reggie Miller out of the ball game. Jalen Rose, Travis Best in the backcourt for Jackson and Miller. Front line stays the same. Mullen, Davis, and Smith.
Best stripped by Childs. Best went down to get it back. Jump ball. And a jump ball is called.
And the Pacers were saved a 24-second violation. They should have just left Travis Best wallowing around there in the key. But this is where the Pacers fell apart in the first half. This is where the Pacers fell apart in Game 5. Larry Bird continues to go deep to the bench as Reggie sits. But Larry is the first to tell you that none of his guys can play the whole game.
Best and Childs. Allen Houston has it for New York. Here's Sprewell. Camby shakes his head no, as Sprewell was thinking about the lob.
Sprewell should have shot because Camby could have got the missed rebound.
That was encouraging. Kurt Thomas. Easy rebound for Best.
That is the shot that Thomas has to make in the absence of Larry Johnson. They're running that pick and roll with Smith. The guy in the corner is going to be open the rest of the evening. Smith.
Rick Smith missed it. Offensive rebound, Dale Davis. Childs ties him up.
Tom, we keep talking about the substitutions. And I believe you go with your biggest guys, and Smith misses this jumper, resulting in the tie-up here. Talking to Coach Wooden today, he reminded me that his last game he ever coached, Antonio Davis in, Rick Smith out, the last game he ever coached, 5 guys played, 4 of them played the full 40 minutes, 1 sub came in and played 12 minutes, and that was it. They won the game, they beat Kentucky in the NCAA championship.
Who?
Kentucky Wildcats.
To UCLA?
To UCLA, absolutely.
I don't know if I trust your memory.
You went to Kentucky, right?
Childs, Chris Childs. From 15, did a little Big L in honor of his fallen teammate, Larry Johnson.
They ought to quit thinking about the signs and start thinking about playing ball. This game is, this is the championship right here.
Jalen Rose answers for Indiana. They need Rose to get untracked.
Childs is in this ball game along with Camby, and those are the guys that may have to play the rest of the time. So you're going to see Van Gundy maybe invoke some of that Wooden theory as they come back to Allen Houston.
Well, Houston is a guy, Sprewell, Camby, they can all play the whole game. Chris Childs as well. I don't think Kurt Thomas is in good enough shape to do it.
8 on the shot clock. They got to get a shot away. Houston.
Houston. He feels it. 23 for Houston. Pretty shot.
Offensive foul. Pacers. Beating themselves, the Pacers are. Nobody steps out here to deny Chris Childs, who gets to the foul line, pulls up perfect shot. Please leave that alone. Even Ben Gundy's rolling his eyes.
They come back to Houston, and what the Indiana Pacers got to do is stop letting him shoot the ball. He misses that one, but the crowd is on their feet every time Houston touches the ball. Defensively, Indiana is not getting it. Make somebody else shoot the ball other than Allen Houston.
Hesitation.
Sprewell went for the steal, couldn't quite get it.
10 on the clock for Jalen Rose.
Inside, Camby rejects Antonio Davis.
The Pacers are beating themselves. 3 on the shot clock. Knicks need to play smart right here. Antonio Davis, never execute the shot that you just fake. The defense is reading it too perfectly. Camby changing the game.
That wasn't his man.
Rose had to get it up quickly, missed it. Davis had the rebound, still does. Lost it, put it up, and drew the foul. Dale Davis, determined work under the Indiana basket. That's the good news. The bad news is he'll have to go to the free throw line.
Well, now let's remember that Dale Davis is being guarded by Marcus Camby. Camby is a great shot blocker off the ball. Antonio Davis on that last possession had no idea where Camby was. As a result, he got it slapped back.
The big men for the Pacers, they're not holding on to the ball tonight. Both Davises are dropping it. Smith is never even getting to it.
Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern on NBC, the seniors tee it up. Second round of the Bell South Senior Classic at Opryland. Jim Albus leads the elite field by a stroke after the first round of play. Bell South Senior Classic tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, here on NBC.
Tom, you just said it was a good idea to foul Dale Davis. That guy is an outstanding free throw shooter. He's worked religiously at becoming a quality producer from the line.
Religion might be in order for him when he goes to the free throw line. Tied at 57, Sprewell gives the Knicks the lead. 30 seconds left.
First shoot for the second half for Sprewell, and Houston needs some help. So Sprewell is going to have to step up to this dance and deliver.
The Knicks have players, Houston and Spree, who can deliver off their own dribble. Where is that for Indiana?
5-second difference between Jay and the shot clock. Jalen Rose right in Allen Houston's face.
You didn't say oh, did you? I guess we found out who that guy was, Jalen Rose. Oh,
good. And finally as well.
At the end of the third quarter, New York will hold for the final shot. Blocked. Best from midcourt. And the third quarter comes to a close. Allen Houston and his wife expecting another child soon. And with that third quarter performance, maybe they'll be at the finals when the child is delivered. Allen Houston kept New York in it. Indiana and New York tied at 59 at the end of quarter number 3. We'll be back after these messages and a word from your local station. You're watching the NBA on NBC. Nighttime view of the Frog's Neck and Whitestone Bridges as we begin the fourth quarter. Tied at 59. Leading scorer in the game, Allen Houston, after that great third quarter performance. He has 23. Smits leads Indiana with 13, but Reggie Miller only with 8 points tonight. Indiana with some foul trouble. Jackson with 4, and 4 other players with 3 apiece. And fourth quarter, Reggie starts on the bench, but will he step up at the end of the game to keep Indiana alive?
Jalen Rose has certainly made a significant contribution here in the third. Oh, terrific pick, and they're going to call that an offensive foul. Larry Bird up in arms. Dale Davis appeared to just stand there.
You know, Dale Davis is a physical word. You see that arm come out?
He was just tensing himself. He didn't move. He was just getting ready to absorb the collision that Chris Childs caused.
Well, he's really tense now because he has 4 fouls. Derek McKee back in for Indiana to start this fourth quarter. Childs for 3.
During the break, Tom, Bill said now it's time to find out who wants to play, and Chris Childs is one of those guys that wants to finish the deal for the New York Knicks. 5 quick points for him, and three of them came on that last three-pointer. Sprewell gamble.
McKee tied up by Chris Dudley.
Steve, if you're a player, this is what you live for. The penetration, something that has killed the Pacers all series. Then the three-point shooting, outstanding, with the exception of that.
Well, you know, the operative word as we look at Larry Bird is the guys that are players. You got to want this kind of opportunity. You want to want this kind of atmosphere to deliver the goods. A bunch of confusion right now for Childs and Houston about where to be on the tip as Dudley controls the top.
Dudley outjumps McKee for the basketball. We may have to get Chris Childs over here to settle you down before this game's over, like he did Larry Johnson before that free throw. Turnovers have plagued Indiana all night long.
Jalen Rose pushing Spree off the box.
Larry Bird is working these officials all he can. He's trying to say, see the obvious, but you can see right there, Sprewell is hooking and holding, and that's what Bird tells the officials. He's holding them off.
If Spree is trying to back up and he ends up on the Pacer bench, that's a foul.
Jalen Rose, the latest Pacer to be tagged with his 4th foul. Pick and roll. Rose stepped right in the passing lane to intercept for Indiana.
When Jalen Rose gets angry and dials in, particularly in pressure situations, he plays some terrific basketball. Let's see how he handles the adversity.
When he's focused, he's a considerable force. Here's McKee against the smaller Houston. Double team come. Best hits the 3. Travis Best left alone. They didn't rotate back fast enough, and he nails his 7th point.
Travis Best, who was huge last year in the 7-game Eastern Conference Finals against Chicago, delivering in spite of the debilitating injury.
Houston off a good screen from Dudley, knocks it down. You talk about all the work of Allen Houston paying off here in this game. Son of a coach. His dad, Wade, coached high school. His sister, Louisville, coached Allen at Tennessee. And Jalen Rose lost it. Allen said instead of going home to relax, Dad would say, let's put on the tape of that last game.
Plus his dad let him shoot all the time in the game.
Loose ball foul call.
You can see Travis Best may have the bad going, but he doesn't have a bad hand, and he delivers from downtown. And then Allen Houston working real hard just to shake the defense of Derek McKee. Drops one in to give the Knicks a 2-point advantage.
Six games into this Knicks-Pacers battle, we've seen classic images of heroes and tradition. A fallen warrior has made way for a new one. An old nemesis struggles, but finds the courage to fight on. We've seen pride and heart and hopes for redemption, and it's captured our imagination. Tonight in Game 6, Larry Johnson of the Knicks out with a knee injury suffered in the 2nd quarter. So Allen Houston takes over the offense for New York with a brilliant 3rd quarter. Reggie Miller still cannot find his shot. Will Reggie be able to pull one out at the Garden again? His Pacers face elimination in Game 6. 9:56 remaining. New York leads by 2. Reggie Miller still on the bench. Jalen Rose beat Camby for the layup.
That may be the only time in memory in this series that Camby didn't change a shot that he went after.
But the guy that you talked about that can't get his own shot or can get his own shot is Jalen Rose, and he's making it happen. And for the Knicks, they're going to have to get some help from Childs and particularly from Sprewell.
Penetration. The Pacers aren't stopping anybody on the perimeter. Spree, though, he should do a better job of getting the ball closer, maybe at the foul line, and get his own offensive going to help out Allen Houston.
Smits wants it back from McKee against Dudley. Rick Smits turns, can't hit. And a loose ball foul called on Indiana as they sent Marcus Camby flying.
Well, they called him cotton candy at the start for being so soft.
Ooh, I like it. Very good.
But this guy is in the battle now, and Larry Bird is duly impressed, talking constantly about Camby's contributions and the inability of the Pacers to stop him.
Jalen Rose stripped it away from Sprewell, off Spree and out of bounds. Nice defensive play by Rose.
Sprewell is better when he faces the basket, and particularly against Jalen Rose. He's had a tough time in this series trying to out-jump him very quickly and turns it over.
Travis Best against Childs. Jalen Rose comes to get it.
Now, what Allen Houston has to remember about Rose, he's left-handed. Make him go to his right hand. Same thing with Travis Best.
Blocked by Camby. Smith whips it to Antonio Davis, and a shot clock violation by Indiana. Good defensive help by New York.
Unbelievable defense, Tom. Mark Jackson seeing it slip away a little bit here in his hometown where he used to play. Camby again changing the game. And then the strip down, Reggie Miller dying to get back in there. How long is Bird going to wait?
Well, it's only a 2-point deficit for the Pacers. He's trying to buy those guys some much-needed rest, and the Knicks have got to build a bigger lead than 2 as they look to Allen Houston against the defense of Derek McKee.
Indiana's turned the ball over 22 times. Camby, not much outside shot. Derek McKee rushes it away for the Pacers.
Childs is the guy with the hot perimeter hand. That's the one you want to drive the ball at his man, initiate the double team, and spot up Childs.
Jalen Rose, open shot. Jalen Rose stepping to the forefront for the Indiana Pacers. He now is in double figures.
Jalen Rose is an incredible guy under pressure, and particularly when he gets angry. Once he got that bad call against him, he really got active at the offensive end, tied the ball game up.
And you can see it in Jalen's face right now, just so focused.
Allen Houston gives it back to Canby. Bad pass. Here's Rose for Indiana.
Bad idea, because you're throwing the ball to Dudley in traffic.
Canby again.
Canby makes up for it by deflecting that pass. Childs, he throws it badly. Here comes Jalen Rose. He's 1-on-3, and he'll hold it up.
Pull it out and reset. New York has to play three-man basketball with Spree, Childs, and Houston, and let Canby and Dudley go to the weak side and rebound.
Childs made Rose miss that one with a double clutch, but Smits with an offensive rebound. Indiana looks for the lead. Smits, short, never got above the level of the rim, thought he was fouled.
New York needs organization here. They're just playing scatter ball.
Sprewell gives it to Canby, who's hammered by Rick Smits. 6:58 left in Game 6. Still nothing decided. Pacers and Knicks tied at 66. Reggie Miller has tormented the Knicks in the playoffs. In '94 here at the Garden, he scored 25 of his 39 points in the fourth quarter to lead Indiana to a dramatic come-from-behind victory. Following year, 8 points in the final 16 seconds as the Pacers stun the Knicks with a Game 1 victory en route to their series win. Then last season, Game 4, his three-pointer in the closing seconds kept the Knicks from tying the series as Indiana won the game in overtime and wrapped up the series in the next game. Tonight, Reggie Miller, only 8 points. Mark Jackson and Reggie Miller are in now for the final 6 minutes, 58 seconds. Reggie only 3 of 15 shooting tonight. Marcus Camby misses the first free throw as we check in with Jim Gray.
All right, thanks, Tom. Here's the report on Larry Johnson from Beth Israel Hospital. He has a sprained medial collateral ligament in his right knee. He will be reevaluated tomorrow and is day-to-day, and right now he is still at the hospital, will not be returning to Madison Square Garden. Tom?
Thank you, Jim. First free throws by either team in the quarter. Canby hits 1 of 2. That's the margin of a New York lead.
Remember, the Knicks were perfect in Game 5 down the stretch.
New York only 23 free throws today, but only 7 free throws by the Indiana Pacers.
Game 5, New York 13 for 16 in the fourth quarter. Canby's got to put those down.
They are against the shot clock and throwing the ball over the perimeter. Mark Jackson
misses the 3. Sprewell has it.
Van Gundy always telling us that when Spree rebounds and Allen Houston, that's the Knicks at their best. That's the Knicks at their worst.
Why would you try to throw the ball to Chris Dudley?
Well, he wasn't. He was throwing it towards Marcus Camby, and Dudley got in the way. And, of course, you know, the game is scoring, and Dudley's going to try to get him to turnover Smith.
And Smith is teed up by Hugh Hollins.
Rick Smith better watch out. He's on the verge of getting a second tee from Hugh Hollins. That's the problem with playing close games on the road like this. A traveling violation. He left both feet before he put the ball down. That's the right call. Very tight, but yes, the right call.
Now you know why I come to you for all questions about officials, and then you say, well, you didn't have a meeting with them.
If they called that on Shaq, Ewing, and Barkley, we may never have heard of those 3 players.
Well, Allen Houston with a rare free throw miss, and then he's knocked to the floor by Reggie Miller, who gets the foul.
Foul situation. The next one sends the New York Knicks to the penalty. They only have 1 team foul against them. They can be very aggressive. When Camby is effective, it's because he's down in the slot, and they haven't been able to find him. Sprewell.
Shot Latrell Sprewell, baseline floater, puts the Knicks up 3.
But Steve, the Knicks are killing Camby's efforts themselves. He's best on the weak side. They're playing him on the strong side. The strong side should be Houston, Sprewell, and Childs. And then Dudley and Canby on that weak side.
Chris Dudley will be called for a hold on Rick Smits.
Sprewell, you know, he's best when he can just make up plays, and this is a made-up play by Sprewell, just going on his own, and double clutches to get that one to Danson, and Van Gundy said, it is about time, Spree, you showed up.
Hey, that was the famed two-man game that Tom was talking about the other night.
Yeah, there's no two-man when you're with Trell. Now, if he's able to make up plays, that mean he'd be a good coach?
No.
Dale Davis replacing Antonio Davis for Indiana. Nice fake by Smits. Dudley bought it, and Smits slammed down his 15th point.
There was some anger in that one because Smits is mad about the calls and a big effort by him to bring the ball game back to a one-point game.
And Smits plays extremely well when he gets mad, but they wish he'd get mad a lot more often.
Allen Houston against Reggie Miller, now with 4 fouls. Houston got it, rattled around, took a dance, and stayed home for Allen Houston, who now has 27 points.
People who can score off their own dribble when it all bogs down. Sprewell and Houston back-to-back.
Miller now being guarded by Childs. Dudley on a switch.
That's not the strength of Reggie Miller's game.
Jalen Rose to Smits. Jalen Rose heads up play, finds Smits, who palms the ball as he shoots it through.
And they're also calling for the foul as Childs reached in and just raked that off left hand for Smits.
Coming back to the same play. They were late in getting them the ball. They come back to Sprewell.
Latrell Sprewell on target. The Knicks go back up by 3.
That runner that he hit, that Steve was talking about the creativity, that set him off. Now he's in it right now. They got to get him the ball again.
And the defensive assignment is Childs against Miller, Houston against Jackson. Canby comes out on the ball, and they get an offensive foul.
Reggie Miller with a push-off. Dick Bavetta said that's 5 on Reggie Miller.
Very tough call. Everybody just backing off. Just let that go. Canby does a terrific job of stepping out here, and he's already backing off. There's no contact.
What's that elbow?
There's no... Reggie was trying to get his arm back from Canby holding him.
So 5 fouls on Reggie Miller. Let's see if they go after him.
The crowd, unbelievable.
Miller is guarding Sprewell, but Houston, and 1.
No defensive rotation whatsoever for Larry Bird's Pacers. Everybody just on their feet. They're not going to sit down the rest of the game.
3-point play by Allen Houston. He said this team plays best when it's a cornered animal. They saw Larry Johnson, their leading series scorer, go out with an injury in the second quarter. And since then, Allen Houston has hit 10 of 11 and taken over the game. Rose for 3. Jalen Rose keeping Indiana in it. 3-pointer by Jalen cuts the lead in half.
And there is another guy, you know, when the odds are against him, it's very dangerous. And Jalen Rose is stepping up in this one, 7 here in the quarter.
But who can play the individual defense to stop the penetration of New York? They're coming right back to Houston, and why not?
Well, they've got to keep driving. The ball comes over the top.
Oh, Allen Houston, unstoppable the last 2 quarters, 32 in the game.
Players live for this moment. You just feel so golden. Everything is coming back. The opposition playing in slow motion.
Rick Smits fall away, and 1. $19 for Rick Smits, and a chance for a 3-point play as Dudley commits the foul.
If the Pacers are going to lead the Garden tonight, they're not going to go quietly as Rick Smits turns and fires. You know, ever since he got that traveling call, Rick Smits has been a wild man out here on the floor for the Pacers. He has a chance for the 3-point play.
Got the free throw. 78-76 New York, just over 3 minutes left in Game 6. A New York win sends them to the finals, the first 8 seed to ever make it that far. A Pacers win forces a Game 7 on Sunday. Childs, Canby, puts it down.
Dale Davis just standing there, rooted to the floor, watching the ball, watching other players play the game.
Away from the ball, Offensive foul, Rick Smits.
Chris Childs pulls the trigger from the free throw line. Marcus Camby gracefully sliding in. Nothing the Pacers can do about it.
Knicks lead by 4, 2:41 away from the finals. Surprised the Empire State Building isn't in blue and orange the way this town has gone, this city has gone crazy over the Knicks. Patrick Ewing leading cheers during the timeout. The crowd never stopped.
An incredibly emotional scene here. Lots of points need to be scored by the Knicks as the Pacers are far from being done.
Childs nearly lost his balance and throws it away.
And again, absolutely horrible spacing for the Knicks.
Well, you know, for Chris Childs, you know, he lives off of inspiration, and it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with in the final 2:21 as he made a mistake in. Miller.
Reggie Miller misses the three. Childs takes it off the floor, and we're down to the 2-minute mark in Game 6.
Beautifully executed play. Reggie didn't even look down at Smits, who's had a hotter offensive half than Reggie Miller.
Miller only 3 of 16 in the game. Childs for 3. What are they doing there? Mark Jackson.
New York has given Indiana every single chance. The question is, can Indiana capitalize here?
Reggie Miller looks for Smits. Instead, they work the ball the other way. Shot clock at 8. Rose to Jackson. Path to the basket. Didn't get the shot away. 2 to shoot. Rose gets it up. Missed it. Hamby skies for the rebound.
He's just moving beautifully as the great rebounders have done in history. Of course, Wilt, Russell, the absolute best. The defense, though, the closeout by Sprewell to force him to put it on the ball.
And Rick Smits fouls out of the game, replaced by Antonio Davis. Smits leaves with 20 points. Top point getter tonight for the Indiana Pacers, who are in danger of being eliminated in the Eastern Conference Finals. Again, they took the Bulls to Game 7 last year.
All season long, the Pacers have talked about wanting to be champions, but they have not had the resolve here tonight to be champions. And, you know, when you talk about teams that want it, you got to find a hero someplace. Tonight, the New York Knicks have found one in Allen Houston, Camby, and Childs, and there has been no answer for the guys in pinstripe in purple. I mean, that's blue and gold.
Pick a color, Steve. That's okay. Larry Bird needs a timeout. And are the Indiana Pacers going to take the same route out of here that the Utah Jazz took?
And the man no one wanted in New York, Marcus Camby, has led the way. By 6 at the 1:22 mark. When the Knicks last won the NBA title in 1973, they boasted one of the great teams in NBA history. Twice in 4 years, this cerebral veteran team would raise championship banners. It was over 2 decades before the franchise saw the NBA Finals again. And in it, the Knicks were 1 victory away from another title. But their dreams would end in a nightmare in Houston. And the wait for New York would continue to this day. There's Patrick Ewing, the only member of the Knicks that was on that team. And he, of course, out of action now with an injury. San Antonio awaits the winner in the NBA Finals, and the Knicks a minute 22 away from making that date with the Spurs.
The Knicks, like Game 5, have been perfect down the stretch. Reggie tried to bring it right back early, but Camby is there again. Do they foul right away if you're Indiana?
Well, Indiana has got to get possession of the ball, so they got to gamble right here in the backcourt to try to make a steal on the ball, maybe get lucky, get the ball and get a play. Otherwise, they have got to foul just to keep the Knicks from using 24 seconds every single time. Dudley out of the ball game.
Fine move by Van Gundy getting Kurt Thomas in, a better foul shooter than Dudley.
11 of his last 12. Allen Houston, he and Canby have been the difference.
The Knicks are 11 for 14 here in the fourth quarter. They scored on 10 of their final 11 possessions in Game 5. That's playing perfect basketball. That's closing them out. 10 seconds. Mike Mathis right on top of the call here.
10-second violation gives it back to Indiana with 1:03 on the clock.
Breakdown mentally. The Knicks just can't seem to handle prosperity as the subs back in. Defense and rebounding. Dudley in for Thomas.
Well, again, what the Knicks defense has to guard against is a quick three-point field goal to cut the lead in half. They want to make them work all 24 seconds to get a score, and they want that score to be a deuce.
Reggie's 3 for 17.
Back to Jackson. Open man from the corner for 3, Jalen Rose.
Chris Childs. Dudley
on the floor to get it for New York. 42 seconds left. Here's Sprewell. Jackson with a 3 for Indiana. It's a 5-point game. 30 seconds left. Indiana foul.
That last play that ignited the fast break. Chris Dudley ran from 25 feet away and dove as Larry Bird looks on in just abject disappointment. That led to this fabulous drive. Sprewell just crossing over. No one on this team for the Indiana is stopping Latrell Sprewell on the way to the hoop.
Indiana motivated by that. As you see Sprewell react to throwing it down. And now he'll come to the free throw line. But Indiana motivated by that 7th game loss to the Bulls last season. Really the only team that stayed together during the lockout, working out constantly. They were the favorites from the outset to step in and replace the Bulls with Michael Jordan retiring. They struggled sometimes during the regular season, especially to close out close games. But in the playoffs, they seem to come alive. Now New York, the improbable New York Knicks, who have battled all sorts of adversity all season long, on the verge of eliminating the Pacers again.
And Sprewell, who went from a year ago from the villain, from the most vilified player maybe in the history of the NBA, to now on the verge of taking his team to the finals and maybe being the MVP, if it's not Marcus Camby.
.8 seconds left. New York about to become the only 8th team to ever make the finals. Back after these messages from your local station. Is this a look of disdain from Larry Bird as Reggie Miller goes by? Miller 3 of 17 tonight, has not scored in the fourth quarter. The Pacers and Miller have seen their championship hopes end in the Eastern Conference Finals before. 1994 Knicks and Patrick Ewing edged them in Game 7 here at the Garden. The following season, Indiana went to 7 games again, only to lose to a then up-and-coming Orlando Magic team. Then last season, like so many others, they fell to Michael Jordan in what would be the final title run of the Chicago Bulls dynasty, yet again in 7 games.
Now you got two incredible legends, Reggie Miller, Karl Malone, both this year, thinking they had their chance. So far denied.
Jalen Rose. If he
Scores.
Let's see if he gets the continuation.
Confefence says yes, absolutely.
Yes, basket counts. Jalen Rose with a chance for a three-point play.
What they do is guard nobody. They let him go down the lane. And in this situation, you want the opposition to use the entire 24 seconds. It was 31.1 seconds to go, and they only used 3 seconds to get the score, so they're still in the ball game. And Van Gundy, you know, he doesn't have much hair. He could lose it all before the night is over.
He's on his knees over there right now, Van Gundy.
So they've got a 5-point advantage. Rose looking to make it a 4-point game. Indiana, after the free throw, is going to gamble, and they're going to try to steal the ball, stop the clock.
We got Perkins in right now.
Childs gets it to Sprewell.
That's a great move by Childs. Terrific decision-making. Sprewell's the guy. He's been iced at the line. The only one he missed at the end of the game last game 5 was when he was calling the crowd out when they were chanting his name over in Market Square.
But remember, the Indiana Pacers still are full of quick-second heroics, and every time the Knicks have looked like they've got this thing won, suddenly they cut the lead in half.
Reggie's been here before. Oh, Tom and I did the game when he had 8 points in 16 seconds, so he's just waiting, I guess.
And 4 points is not safe anymore, as we've seen from Larry Johnson. But here's Latrell Sprewell. The big question for the Knicks, or one of them anyway, that they had to answer this season: should Latrell Sprewell and Allen Houston play together? Well, tonight the answer is an emphatic yes. Sprewell with 19 points, Houston 32 points. They've combined for 51 of New York's 87.
In Latrell Sprewell, they have a guy who can get to the free throw line and make it, and that is a huge edge in any era of the NBA basketball.
6-point lead with 25.9 seconds left, and Indiana about to face disappointment again. But what about the improbable New York Knicks? Remember, during the lockout, Patrick Ewing was one of the leaders of the union and wasn't thinking much about basketball, was not in shape. Then the Camby deal was questioned. The fans and many of the people around the league thought it was a mistake to trade Charles Oakley for Marcus Camby. And his coach, Jeff Van Gundy, didn't believe in him, didn't play him much, said he was too soft, didn't work hard enough, and maybe was out of shape. Then Latrell Sprewell comes over with all the baggage he had. And then controversy about whether he should start or not, and he's saying he wanted to start. Ernie Grunfeld demoted as the general manager of the team. The team at one time was 21-21, dealing with the Grunfeld firing. And of course, Van Gundy's job still at this moment in question. They had an unbelievable comeback down at Miami. I believe without Patrick Ewing, they were down 20. They came back to win. Next night went on the road, won again at Charlotte. Jeff Van Gundy says that's what turned them around. They still struggled, had to make the playoffs on the last day, as I recall. But then in the playoffs, it's been something else. This was the Miami comeback game, which proved to be now the turnaround point for this New York team. Late April, Knicks pulled off this huge comeback against the Heat, trailed by 20 in the third quarter. Larry Johnson, Marcus Camby, they came roaring back in the fourth. They won it by 2. Camby and Johnson each with 9 points in the fourth. Knicks scored on 11 of their last 13 to come away with a win. Then they had that other win in Charlotte we mentioned, and that seemed to be the turnaround point for this team. And then in the playoffs, Allen Houston bounces one twice, the rim, the backboard, and through to beat Miami on the road in Game 5. They waltzed through the Hawks. Then it took a Larry Johnson miracle 4-point play here at the Garden. Now we've come to this. It's the most improbable story ever in the NBA.
Tom, you covered it all, and you left out Larry Johnson's injury tonight.
And now they overcome the Larry Johnson injury in the second quarter. It is just astounding.
It is still a long way from over. Mullen comes in the ball game along with Jackson, Rose, Perkins, and Miller. They're looking for 3. Miller got 3, but they don't get him the ball. Got it now.
Miller for 3. Childs the rebound.
They have to foul immediately. The Knicks have been terrific at the free throw line.
You know, as courageous as Reggie Miller has been and as many big shots as he has made through his career, and here in the Garden, eventually it had to turn against him. He is 3 of 18 tonight, and there is no magic in that right arm today. And it's heartbreaking for him and all Pacer fans. And Chris Childs has been a terrific free thrower through the regular season, falling off a little bit in the playoffs, but they just want one from him now.
Where does this leave Larry Bird, though, as Mark Jackson sits and watches the crowd chanting Larry Bird? So much pressure. Said at the start of this series that this was a series that the franchise had to win. Right now, though, Larry, there'll be a lot of stories, there'll be a lot of rumors about him walking away. Larry Bird is not a quitter. Larry Bird is going to come back. He'll fight this thing through. He just needs the luxury of having that one truly special player that the Pacers seem to be lacking at this point.
Big free throw disparity in the game. New York has hit 27 of 33. Indiana's attempted only 9 free throws in the game, hitting all 9 of them.
Sprewell blocking shots. The Pacers have given up.
And NBA history has just been made. The New York Knicks are the first 8 seed to ever make the NBA Finals. Jeff Van Gundy's wife in tears. What more could they possibly overcome? They'll get a chance as they meet San Antonio in the finals. Let's go to Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Nobody is happier than Patrick Ewing. Patrick, describe this moment for us, please.
Oh, this feels very good. You know, we're going back to the big show, going back to the big dance. I'm very proud of my teammates. I thought they played fabulous. Larry got hurt, but the guys, they came out and did it for us.
What was the mood in the locker room at halftime when Larry did get hurt?
Well, it was kind of down. We was kind of down. We didn't know what the extent of it was, but you know, it's going to be day to day, and hopefully be able to play.
How difficult is this for you? You're a part of the celebration. You've been a part of the team, but you're not able to participate now.
Well, it's very frustrating. You know, I wish I was able to play, help my teammates, but they're doing a fabulous job. I just want to go and get involved in the celebration.
Go get in the huddle. Congratulations, Patrick.